The lecture hall of the Galactic Confluence Academy stretched wide enough to hold 300 students from 47 different species. The ceiling curved upward like the inside of a dome, covered in soft lights that adjusted automatically to suit whatever eyes happened to be looking at them. To humans, the lights appeared warm and yellow. To the Krizik, they glowed in ultraviolet patterns. To the lithoids, they pulsed with a rhythm that matched their crystalline thought processes. Instructor Velthar moved across the stage on 6 legs, his chitinous body clicking softly with each step. He was a Krizik, a species known throughout the galaxy for their logical minds and methodical approach to every problem. For 200 cycles, he had taught the first class at the academy. For 200 cycles, he had started each new term with the same tradition. The puzzle box sat on a pedestal at the center of the stage. It was about the size of a human head, made from a dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Panels covered its surface in intricate patterns. Symbols from a dozen dead languages marked its edges. Inside its mechanisms, gears and switches waited in perfect precision. Every student who graduated from the academy had faced this box. Most took 3 to 4 hours to open it. The record was 1 hour and 47 minutes. Set by a mind weaver whose telepathic abilities gave her an edge in understanding the logic built into the device. The students filed in slowly. A Quellan named Thex entered first, his forearms carrying data tablets and reference materials. His species believed in preparation. He had studied the Academy's history for a full year before arriving. He knew about the puzzle box. He had practiced similar puzzles. He was ready. Behind him came Ricina, a mind weaver whose thoughts rippled out from her in invisible waves. Other telepaths in the room felt her presence like a gentle pressure against their minds. She moved with confidence. Her species had attended the academy for 800 cycles. She knew what to expect. Col 9 drifted in next, his crystalline body refracting light into rainbow patterns across the walls. Lithoids processed information differently than organic species. They stored memories perfectly, never forgetting a single detail. Col 9 had already memorized every lecture ever given in this hall. Then came dozens of others. Species with tentacles and species with wings. Species that breathed oxygen and species that absorbed radiation. The Academy brought together the brightest minds in known space. They came to learn strategy, crisis management, and advanced problem solving. They came to prove their species worthy of leadership positions in the Galactic Confluence. Marcus Chen walked in last. He was human, and that made him unusual. The last human to attend the Academy had been here 200 years ago, back when humanity was still new to galactic society. That human had failed spectacularly, proving what many species already suspected. Humans were too emotional, too impulsive, too chaotic in their thinking. They made excellent soldiers and decent traders, but advanced strategic thinking required a calmer mind. Marcus had fought hard for his place here. His test scores were exceptional. His letters of recommendation came from 3 different ambassadors. Even so, the Academy Board had debated his admission for 6 months. Finally, they decided that 200 years was long enough. They would give humanity another chance. The other students watched Marcus as he entered. Some were curious. Most were skeptical. A few were openly hostile. Thex had complained to the administration that allowing a human into the program lowered the Academy's standards. Ricina had sensed Marcus's mind during orientation and found it chaotic and difficult to read. Col 9 had calculated that Marcus would likely drop out within the first month. Marcus seemed unaware of their judgment. He wore simple clothes, standard Academy issue in dark blue. His hair was black and slightly messy. His eyes moved constantly, taking in everything around him. He walked with a casual stride, hands in his pockets, looking more like someone exploring a museum than a student entering a prestigious institution. Velthar waited until everyone had entered. He tapped one leg against the floor and the door sealed shut with a soft hiss. The lights dimmed slightly. Every student found their way to a seat, arranging themselves in the circular rows that surrounded the central stage. Everyone except Marcus. He had stopped near the stage, looking at the puzzle box. His head tilted slightly to one side. His eyes narrowed. He reached out and picked up the box, turning it over in his hands. Velthar opened his mouth to speak, ready to deliver his traditional opening lecture. He wanted to tell them about patience, about systematic thinking, about the importance of understanding foundational principles before attempting to solve complex problems. The puzzle box was meant to teach them humility. It would show them that intelligence alone was not enough. They needed discipline. They needed method. Marcus rotated the box 90 degrees. His fingers traced along one edge where the metal looked slightly more worn than the rest. He pressed 3 panels in quick succession. Click, click, click. The box made a sound like a sigh, and its top section lifted away smoothly. Marcus set the open box back on the pedestal and walked toward an empty seat in the 3rd row. The lecture hall was completely silent. 300 students sat frozen. Velthar's mandibles hung open in an expression that would have been comical if the moment weren't so shocking. "That is not possible," Cole9 said finally. His voice resonated like struck crystal. "The puzzle requires understanding of nested logical frameworks. Solution time cannot be less than 14 minutes using optimal processing methods." "He cheated," Thex declared, standing up on all 4 legs. He must have seen the puzzle before, or he had the solution programmed into a neural implant. Marcus reached his seat and sat down. He looked genuinely confused by the reaction. "What?" he asked. "Was I not supposed to touch it?" Velthar found his voice, though it came out higher than usual. "How did you do that?" Marcus shrugged. The wear patterns showed which panels get pressed most often. The scratches on the edges showed the order. The weight distribution told me where the internal mechanisms were located. It was pretty straightforward. Straightforward? Ricina's mental voice rippled through the room, touched with disbelief. "That puzzle has challenged students for generations." "Yeah, but they were probably thinking about it wrong," Marcus said. He seemed completely relaxed, as if opening an impossible puzzle in 30 seconds was normal. "You're all treating it like a math problem." "It's not. It's a physical object that hundreds of students have handled. Every time someone touches it, they leave evidence. Every failed attempt scratches the metal or wears down the panels. The puzzle isn't in the mechanisms. It's in the history of everyone who tried before." Thex sat back down slowly. His 4 hands trembled slightly. "That is cheating. You did not solve the puzzle. You exploited external data. Is there a difference?" Marcus asked. Velthar moved closer to the pedestal. He picked up the puzzle box with 2 of his legs and examined it carefully. The human was right. The wear patterns were there. The scratches told a story. Velthar had created this puzzle himself, 200 cycles ago. He had placed it on this pedestal at the start of every term. He had watched thousands of students struggle with it. Not once had he noticed the physical evidence that accumulated over time, because Krizik minds focused on logical systems, not physical wear. Because he thought about the puzzle as an intellectual challenge, not as an object with history. Because his assumptions about how to solve problems had blinded him to other approaches. "You will stay after class," Velthar said quietly. "We need to discuss this," Marcus nodded. The other students whispered among themselves in dozens of languages. Some were impressed. Most were suspicious. All of them were unsettled. The human had broken something fundamental in their first 10 minutes at the academy. Velthar tried to continue with his prepared lecture, but his words felt hollow now. He talked about methodology and systematic approaches. He explained the Academy's philosophy of problem-solving. But the open puzzle box sat on the pedestal behind him, a silent challenge to everything he was saying. When the lecture finally ended, the students filed out slowly. Many glanced back at Marcus, who remained in his seat as instructed. Thex paused at the door, his 4 eyes fixed on the human with an expression somewhere between anger and fascination. Only when the hall was empty did Velthar approach Marcus. The instructor's 6 legs carried him slowly down the steps until he stood directly in front of the human student. "In 200 cycles," Velthar said softly, "no student has ever solved that puzzle in less than 1 hour. Most take 3 to 4. The fastest solution on record was 1 hour and 47 minutes. You solved it in approximately 30 seconds. This should not be possible." Marcus met the instructor's compound eyes without flinching. "Maybe the problem isn't that I'm too fast. Maybe the problem is that everyone else is thinking about it wrong." Velthar's mandibles clicked together in a gesture that meant he was processing something difficult. "The Academy Board has doubts about humanity's readiness for advanced education. This incident will not help your case. They will say you got lucky. They will say you cheated. They will say this proves humans cannot follow proper protocols. Did I break any rules? Marcus asked. No, Velthar admitted, but you have made something very... The emergency meeting of the Academy Board started at midnight, Galactic Standard Time. 17 of the most respected educators in known space gathered in a secure conference room. Velthar presented the security footage 3 times. Each time, the board members watched Marcus Chen pick up the puzzle box, rotate it twice, press 3 panels, and open it in 30 seconds. Archmagister Korveth was the first to speak. He was a vertikash, a species with blue-green skin and eyes that could see in 16 different spectrums of light. His voice was deep and carried the weight of 300 years of teaching experience. This is exactly what I warned you about. Humans are unpredictable. They do not follow proper procedures. This student has made a mockery of our traditions. He solved the puzzle, said Instructor Mira, a mind-weaver who taught advanced telepathy. That was the point of the exercise, was it not? The point was to teach them patience, Korveth countered. To show them that some problems require time and careful thought. This human learned nothing. Perhaps we are the ones who need to learn something, Velthar said quietly. All eyes turned to him. I created that puzzle 200 cycles ago. I have watched thousands of students struggle with it. I believed I understood it completely. The human showed me that I was wrong. He exploited wear patterns and scratches, Thex's advisor said. The advisor was also a Quellan, with the same 4-armed body structure. He did not engage with the actual logical framework of the puzzle. Why should he? Velthar asked. I never specified that students must ignore physical evidence. I assumed they would focus on the logical mechanisms because that is how we think. The human thought differently. Is that not valuable? The debate continued for 3 hours. Some board members argued that Marcus had cheated, even if he had not technically broken any rules. Others suggested that his solution revealed a flaw in the puzzle itself. A few admitted that they were impressed, though they would not say so publicly. Finally, Korveth stood up. His height made him tower over most of the other board members. I propose a formal challenge. If this human is truly as clever as he appears, let him face the trial of perspectives. 7 challenges, 1 designed by each of the major species. If he succeeds, we will admit that humanity deserves their place here. If he fails, we send him home and close admissions to humans for another 200 cycles. The room fell silent. The trial of perspectives was not part of the standard curriculum. It was reserved for special circumstances, usually for students who claimed they had discovered new problem-solving methods that challenged established theories. Only 12 students in academy history had faced the trial. 8 had failed. That seems excessive, Mira said. The student has been here for 1 day. And in that 1 day he has proven that he does not think like the rest of us, Korveth replied. Either that difference is valuable or it is dangerous. We need to know which. Velthar considered his words carefully. He did not trust Korveth's motives. The old Vrikash had opposed Marcus's admission from the beginning. He had argued in dozens of meetings that humans were too chaotic, too emotional, too primitive for advanced education. But Velthar also understood the position the academy was in. If they did nothing, Marcus's solution would undermine the puzzle's credibility. If they punished him for being too clever, they would look foolish. The trial offered a third option. I will agree to this, Velthar said finally, but only if the student agrees voluntarily. We will not force this upon him. The board voted. 14 in favor, 3 against. The trial of perspectives would proceed. When Velthar told Marcus about the trial the next morning, he expected the human to be angry or frightened. Instead, Marcus just nodded. Sure, he said. Sounds interesting. You do not understand, Velthar said. These challenges are designed to be nearly impossible. Each one requires thinking in ways that are natural to a specific species but very difficult for others. Many students fail. Yeah, I got that part, Marcus said. He was sitting in Velthar's office, a small room filled with books and artifacts from 100 different worlds. But I'm here to learn, right? This seems like a good opportunity. You could refuse. There would be no shame in it. Marcus smiled. Where I come from, we have a saying. The best way to learn to swim is to jump in the water. So let's jump. Word spread quickly through the academy. By afternoon, every student knew about the trial. Opinions split sharply. Some students thought Marcus deserved the chance to prove himself. Others thought he was arrogant and would learn a hard lesson. Betting pools started forming. with students wagering on how many challenges Marcus would complete before failing. Thex approached Marcus in the cafeteria that evening. The Quellan moved with careful precision, his forearms balanced perfectly. "I want to apologize," he said stiffly. "I accused you of cheating yesterday. That was premature." Marcus looked up from his meal, surprised. "It's fine, I get it." "What I did was weird." "It was not weird. It was different." Thex's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "I have been thinking about your solution, about the wear patterns and scratches. My species values preparation and thoroughness. We study everything in advance. But we study information and data. We do not study physical objects in the same way." "I wonder what else we miss." "Probably a lot," Marcus said. "I wonder what I'm missing too. That's why I'm here." Thex hesitated, then sat down across from Marcus. "The first challenge is tomorrow. The Lithoid's crystal maze. It is a pure logic puzzle. You will need to guide a crystalline sphere through a maze where every decision point requires solving a mathematical equation. Most students take 8 to 12 hours. What's the record?" Marcus asked. 4 hours and 17 minutes, set by Col9's predecessor. But that was a lithoid solving a lithoid puzzle. No organic species has ever completed it in less than 9 hours. Marcus ate a few more bites of his food. It was supposed to be synthesized protein, but it tasted like cardboard. "Thanks for the heads up." "Why are you not more concerned?" Thex asked. "Do you not understand the difficulty?" "I understand it's going to be hard," Marcus said. "But being worried won't make it easier. So I'll just do my best and see what happens." Thex studied the human for a long moment. His species prided themselves on reading body language and understanding motivation. But Marcus was difficult to read. He seemed relaxed, almost casual about the whole situation. Either he was genuinely confident or he was very good at hiding his fear. That night, Marcus did not study logic or mathematics. Instead, he went to the Academy's recreation center and played a game called Gravity Ball with a group of students from different species. The game involved hitting a ball through hoops while compensating for shifting gravity fields. Marcus was terrible at it, but he laughed every time he missed and congratulated the other players when they scored. Ricina watched from the observation deck. Her telepathic senses reached out toward Marcus, trying to understand his mental state. What she found confused her. Most students facing the trial would be anxious or focused, their thoughts tight and controlled. Marcus's mind was loose and wandering. He was thinking about the game, about a funny story someone had told him at lunch about whether he should try the blue food or the green food next time. The trial barely registered in his thoughts. Either the human was incredibly disciplined at compartmentalizing, or he genuinely did not understand the danger he was in. Ricina suspected it was something else entirely, something her species had no equivalent for. The next morning, Marcus arrived at the testing chamber at exactly the appointed time. A crowd had gathered outside, students pressing against the observation windows. Inside the chamber, a massive crystal maze floated in the air, held in place by magnetic fields. The maze was beautiful, its walls glowing with soft blue light. At the entrance, a perfect sphere of solid crystal waited. Instructor Zixal, the lithoid who designed the challenge, explained the rules. His voice resonated through the chamber. "You must guide the sphere from entrance to exit. At every intersection, you will find an equation. Solve the equation correctly and the path will open. Solve incorrectly and you must return to the start. The maze contains 47 intersections. You may begin when ready." Marcus stepped forward. He looked at the maze from several angles, circling around it slowly. The watching students expected him to begin immediately, to rush in with the same surprising speed he had shown with the puzzle box. Instead, he just looked 5 minutes past, then 10. Thex whispered to another student, "Perhaps he realizes he cannot solve it." Then Marcus did something unexpected. He reached out and pushed the floating maze. It rotated on its magnetic field, spinning slowly in the air. "What are you doing?" Zixal asked, his crystal voice sharp with concern. "The maze orientation is fixed. You cannot change it." "You said I had to guide the sphere from entrance to exit," Marcus replied. "You didn't say the maze had to stay still." He pushed again, tilting the maze at an angle. Then he released the sphere at the entrance. Gravity took over. The sphere rolled through the tilted maze, bypassing most of the intersections entirely, following the path of least resistance. It emerged at the exit 17 seconds later. The observation room exploded with noise. Students shouted in a dozen different languages. Some were laughing. Others were angry. Call 9's voice cut through the chaos, resonating like a bell. The second challenge came 3 days later. Marcus had spent the time attending regular classes, studying with other students, and generally acting like the trial was not happening. This bothered Thex, who had taken it upon himself to help the human prepare. "The Mindweaver's empathy lock is tomorrow," Thex said, spreading 4 tablets across the study table. Each one displayed different information about telepathic species and their approach to problem-solving. "You need to understand how Mindweavers think." Marcus glanced at the tablets while eating an apple. "How do they think?" "Through connection. Through understanding others. The lock requires you to establish a telepathic bond with the mechanism and convince it that you are trustworthy. It reads your emotions, your intentions, your deepest thoughts. If it senses deception or confusion, it remains sealed. So I need to be honest and calm," Marcus said. "You need to be telepathic," Thex corrected, "which you are not. Humans have no natural telepathic ability. Even with technological assistance, you cannot form the kind of deep connection the lock requires. Some species believe this challenge is impossible for non-telepathic beings. But some species completed it anyway, right?" Marcus asked. Thex's forearms gestured with frustration. "Yes, through years of training and meditation, through learning to quiet their minds and project simple emotions, you have 3 days of preparation. It is not enough." Marcus finished his apple and tossed the core into a recycling chute. "Guess we'll find out." The testing chamber for the second challenge was different from the first. It was smaller, quieter, with soft lighting and walls that absorbed sound. At the center of the room stood a pedestal, and on that pedestal rested a silver sphere about the size of a human fist. The sphere's surface rippled like liquid metal, reflecting the room in distorted patterns. Instructor Mira explained the challenge. "The empathy lock was created by my ancestors to teach young Mindweavers control. It requires you to touch the sphere and open your mind to it. The lock will read your thoughts and emotions. If it senses genuine compassion, understanding, and peaceful intent, it will open. If it senses darkness, confusion, or dishonesty, it will remain sealed. Most students require between 4 and 8 hours of meditation before they achieve the necessary mental state." "What happens if I can't do it?" Marcus asked. "Then you fail this challenge. The trial continues, but with a mark against you. 3 failures and the entire trial is considered a loss." Marcus nodded. He approached the pedestal and stood before the sphere. The observation room was packed with students. Ricina was there, along with most of her telepathic classmates. They were curious to see how a non-telepathic being would handle a challenge designed specifically for minds like theirs. Marcus reached out and touched the sphere. Immediately, the surface rippled and flowed up around his hand like living metal. Marcus felt a pressure in his mind, like someone gently pushing against the inside of his skull. It was not painful, just strange. The telepathic students watching from the observation room gasped. Ricina's eyes widened. "I can feel it," she whispered. "The lock is trying to read him, but his mind is so chaotic. Thoughts everywhere. Memories jumping around. It's like trying to read a book where all the pages are shuffling." Marcus stood very still. His eyes were closed. Minutes passed. The metal continued to ripple around his hand, but the sphere did not open. Thex watched from the observation deck, his forearms crossed. He cannot do it. His mind is too undisciplined. But Ricina was not so sure. She extended her own telepathic senses toward Marcus, trying to understand what was happening. What she felt surprised her. Marcus was not trying to clear his mind or achieve perfect calm. Instead, he was thinking about himself, about his own reflection. Inside the chamber, Marcus opened his eyes. He was still touching the sphere with one hand. With his other hand, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small mirror, the kind students used for personal grooming. He held the mirror up in front of his face, angling it so he could see his own reflection. Then he did something very strange. He smiled at himself in the mirror. Not a fake smile, but a genuine expression of warmth and friendliness. He looked at his own reflection the way you might look at a good friend you had not seen in a long time. The telepathic students in the observation room felt it immediately. Ricina gasped. He's using the mirror to reflect his emotions back at himself. The lock is reading his emotional response to his own reflection. It's reading compassion, but compassion directed inward. "That's cheating," one of the Mindweaver students protested. "No," Ricina said slowly. "It's brilliant. The lock reads emotions. It does not care where those emotions are directed. He cannot project emotions toward the lock because he is not telepathic. But he can feel emotions toward himself, and the lock can read those. He is using his own reflection as a bridge. The sphere suddenly clicked. The metal rippled one more time, then separated into two halves like a blooming flower. Inside was a small crystal that glowed with soft blue light. Marcus picked up the crystal and held it up for Instructor Mira to see. "Is this what I'm supposed to find?" Mira's expression was difficult to read. "Yes, you have completed the challenge." As Marcus left the chamber, Ricina intercepted him in the hallway. "How did you think of that?" "The mirror technique?" Marcus shrugged. "The lock reads emotions, right? But I'm not telepathic, so I can't send emotions directly to it. So I figured, maybe I don't need to send emotions to the lock. Maybe I just need to feel the right emotions and let the lock read them. And it's easier for me to feel compassion when I'm looking at something, so I looked at myself." "But why compassion for yourself?" Ricina asked. "Most beings find it difficult to feel genuine compassion toward themselves." "Really?" Marcus seemed surprised. "Where I come from, we teach kids that you can't really help others if you don't take care of yourself first. You have to be your own friend before you can be a good friend to others." "Is that weird?" Ricina thought about this. In Mindweaver culture, individuals were taught to always prioritize the collective, to feel the emotions of others before their own. Self-compassion was seen as selfish, but watching Marcus, she realized that his approach was not selfish at all. It was just different. "No," she said finally. "Not weird, just very human." The third challenge was the Quellen's simultaneous equation. Thex's own advisor had designed this one, and he was very proud of it. The challenge required solving a complex mathematical problem using 4 different calculation methods at the same time. Quellens, with their 4 arms, could write 4 equations simultaneously. Other species had to find creative solutions, usually involving multiple students working together. Marcus was not allowed to work with other students. That was part of the trial rules. Each challenge had to be completed individually. The testing chamber contained 4 walls, each with a touchscreen surface for writing equations. Marcus would need to input calculations on all 4 walls at the same time to solve the problem. "You have 8 hours, Thex's advisor said. "The equation will be displayed once you begin. You must maintain all 4 calculation streams continuously. If any stream stops for more than 10 seconds, you must start over." Marcus looked at the 4 walls. Then he looked at his 2 hands. "Can I use the materials in the room?" "What materials?" The advisor looked around. The room was deliberately empty except for the walls. "My clothes, my belt, things like that." The advisor's 4 eyes blinked in confusion. "I suppose so. But how would that help?" "Give me 20 minutes before starting the equation," Marcus said. What followed was bizarre. Marcus took off his belt and his shoes. He removed the laces from the shoes. He tore strips from the bottom of his shirt. Then he began constructing something on the floor. Thex watched from the observation room with growing confusion. What is he doing? Marcus was building a machine, a simple one, made from belts and shoelaces and strips of cloth. He created a system of loops and levers that could press against the touchscreens on all 4 walls. Then he attached the ends to his hands and feet. When he was done, Marcus stood in the center of the room, connected to all 4 walls by his makeshift device. "Okay, I'm ready." The equation appeared on all 4 screens simultaneously. It was hideously complex, requiring calculus, geometry, algebraic manipulation, and statistical analysis all at once. Marcus began moving. His hands wrote calculations on 2 walls. His feet, connected to the cloth levers, pressed against the screens on the other 2 walls in patterns he had carefully designed. It was clumsy and slow, but it worked. He was inputting data on all 4 walls at the same time. "That's not how you're supposed to do it," Thex's advisor protested from the observation room. But Velthar, who was also watching, made a clicking sound that was the Krizik equivalent of laughter. "The challenge requires simultaneous calculation on 4 walls. It does not specify that the student must have 4 arms. He has created mechanical assistance from available materials. It is within the rules." Marcus worked for 6 hours. His makeshift machine broke twice and he had to rebuild it. His calculations were slower than a Quellen's would have been. But eventually, the 6th challenge was supposed to be straightforward. It was a test of creativity and artistic expression designed by the Luminari, a species that communicated through bioluminescent patterns. Marcus would need to create a light pattern that conveyed a complex emotional narrative. The challenge typically took 6 to 8 hours of careful work. Marcus completed it in 4 hours using a combination of colored filters and reflected light. He passed without incident, though his solution was characteristically unconventional. He used mirrors again, creating cascading reflections that multiplied his light sources in ways the Luminari had never considered. Instructor Sil Ara, the Luminari who evaluated his work, was impressed. The human understands something fundamental about light. It is not just what you project, but what you reflect and multiply. I will remember this technique. That left one final challenge. The 7th challenge, the one that Corveth had modified. Marcus entered the testing chamber early in the morning. He had slept well, eaten a good breakfast, and felt ready for whatever came next. Velthar had tried to brief him on what to expect, but the instructor seemed nervous. His mandibles clicked together more frequently than usual, a sign of stress in Krisic physiology. The final challenge is a reactor stabilization scenario, Velthar explained. You will enter a room with a simulated reactor that is experiencing a critical failure. You must diagnose the problem and implement a solution before the reactor reaches meltdown. The scenario is designed to test your ability to work under extreme pressure and make decisions with incomplete information. How long do I have? Marcus asked. Most students are given 30 minutes. The fastest successful completion was 14 minutes. Marcus nodded. Sounds intense. I'm ready, but Velthar hesitated. There is something I must tell you. The scenario was modified last night. I discovered this only an hour ago. The modifications were made by Archmagister Corveth without authorization. What kind of modifications? The scenario is no longer a simulation. The reactor is real. If you fail to stabilize it, the entire academy will be at risk. This violates every safety protocol we have. I have reported it to the board, but Corveth has disappeared. I wanted to cancel the challenge, but the board decided that if we stop now, it will appear that we fear the outcome. Politics are complicated. Marcus felt his stomach tighten. This was different from the other challenges. Those had been difficult, but not dangerous. This could hurt people. How much danger are we talking about? If the reactor reaches critical state, it will destroy this wing of the academy. Approximately 200 students and staff would be killed. The blast radius would extend into the residential areas. Then why are we even doing this? Marcus demanded. We should evacuate. We are evacuating, Velthar said. Quietly. But if we do it too obviously, panic could cause more harm than the reactor. You have a choice. You can refuse this challenge. You have already proven yourself, in my opinion. Walking away from a dangerous situation is the wise choice. Marcus thought about this. About the 200 people who could die if he did nothing. About Corveth, who had apparently decided that proving a point was worth risking lives. About all the students who had watched his previous challenges and were probably watching this one too. What happens if I refuse? Marcus asked. The academy has backup plans. Reactor specialists will be brought in. It will take time, but they can handle it. Probably. The modifications Corveth made are unusual. He appears to have made the reactor unstable in ways that do not match standard failure modes. Our specialists may need time to understand what he did. Marcus made his decision. I'll try. But I want something clear. If I tell you to evacuate everyone immediately, you do it. No hesitation, no waiting to see what happens. You get people out. Agreed, Velthar said. The testing chamber was larger than the others. At its center stood a cylindrical structure about 3 meters tall, covered in panels, displays, and control interfaces. The reactor. It hummed with contained energy, and through the transparent panels Marcus could see the glowing core inside. As soon as Marcus entered, alarms began blaring. Red lights flashed across every surface. The displays showed temperature rising, containment fields weakening, and a countdown timer. 10 minutes until critical failure. The observation room was packed. Practically every student and instructor in the academy had come to watch. They stood in tense silence, watching Marcus approach the reactor. Marcus spent the first 30 seconds just looking. His eyes moved rapidly across the displays, taking in information. Temperature, pressure, energy output, containment field strength, coolant levels. He touched nothing. 60 seconds passed. The timer showed 9 minutes remaining. Thex watched from the observation room, his forearms twitching nervously. Why is he not doing anything? He must stabilize the coolant system first. That is standard protocol, But Ricina was focused on Marcus's mind. She could feel his thoughts faster than usual, jumping from one piece of information to another. He was not panicking. He was analyzing. "He is looking for something," she said quietly. 2 minutes gone. 8 minutes remaining. Marcus began walking around the reactor, examining it from all sides. He looked at panels that were not displaying any alarms. He checked connections that seemed fine. What is he doing? Call 9's crystalline voice resonated with confusion. He should be addressing the primary failure points. 3 minutes gone. 7 minutes remaining. Marcus stopped walking. He stood very still, staring at one particular panel on the back of the reactor. Then he smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had just figured out a nasty trick. "This isn't a reactor failure," Marcus said, speaking loud enough for the observation room to hear him. "This is sabotage. The scenario is designed to look like a standard critical failure, but it's not. Every protocol response you might try will actually make things worse. The temperature isn't rising because the coolant system is failing. It's rising because someone set it to rise. The containment field isn't weakening from overload. It's being deliberately drained." In the observation room, Velthar's mandibles clicked together sharply. He is correct. I should have seen it. Corveth designed this to be unsolvable using conventional methods. 4 minutes gone. 6 minutes remaining. Marcus's smile disappeared. "If I try to stabilize this the normal way, I'll kill everyone. Every action I take through the standard controls will be countered by the sabotage program. So I need to not use the standard controls." 5 minutes gone. 5 minutes remaining. Marcus made a decision. He grabbed one of the control panels and ripped it off the reactor.
Sparks flew.
Alarms got louder. Several instructors in the observation room shouted in alarm. "What is he doing?" someone yelled. "He is making it worse." But Marcus was not trying to fix the reactor. He was trying to break it. Systematically, deliberately, he began destroying the control systems. He tore out panels. He cut wires. He smashed displays with his fist, ignoring the pain in his knuckles. The reactor's humming changed pitch. The countdown timer flickered and went dark. The temperature reading stopped climbing. Everything stopped. Marcus found what he was looking for. Behind one of the panels, hidden in the wiring, was a small device about the size of his thumb. It was connected to the reactor's systems, quietly feeding false data and overriding commands. He pulled it out and held it up to the observation window. "This is what was causing the problem," Marcus said, breathing heavily. "It's a sabotage module. Remove it and the reactor is fine. Well, mostly fine. I broke a bunch of stuff getting to it. But the reactor itself was never actually in danger." 2 minutes showed on the countdown when Marcus pulled the device. No, that was wrong. The countdown was not real. It had never been real. Velthar entered the chamber immediately. He examined the device Marcus had found, his 6 legs trembling slightly. "This is Corveth's work. He created a false crisis. The reactor was never unstable. It was being controlled to appear unstable. If you had followed standard protocols, the sabotage module would have counteracted your actions, creating the illusion that you were making things worse. Eventually, you would have given up or made a critical error." "So what was supposed to happen?" Marcus asked. "Was the reactor ever actually going to explode?" "Yes," Velthar said quietly. "If you had continued trying to fix it using conventional methods for long enough, the sabotage module would have caused a real overload. Corveth designed this to be a trap. You were supposed to fail, and in failing cause genuine destruction. He wanted to prove that human thinking is dangerous." Marcus felt cold. He was willing to kill people to make a point? He was convinced that you would refuse the challenge or evacuate immediately. In his mind, either outcome would prove his point. He did not actually believe you would succeed. The chamber door opened. Archmagister Corveth stood there, surrounded by Academy security. His blue-green skin had paled to almost white. His eyes, which could see in 16 spectrums, looked dim and tired. "How did you know?" Corveth asked. "How did you know it was sabotage and not a real failure?" Marcus held up the device. "Because it was too perfect. Real emergencies are messy. They do not fail in neat, predictable ways. This scenario had every system failing at exactly the wrong time, in exactly the wrong sequence. It was like someone wrote a script for the worst possible 3 months past, since Marcus completed the trial of perspectives. Life at the Academy settled into a new rhythm. The human who had solved the puzzle box in 30 seconds became a regular student, attending lectures and studying with classmates from dozens of different species. The initial shock of his arrival had faded, replaced by something more interesting: curiosity. Marcus did not become an instructor, despite some suggestions from the board. He was still learning, still figuring out how to navigate a galaxy that thought differently than he did. But something unexpected happened. Students started coming to him with problems they could not solve using conventional methods. Thex was the first. The Quellan arrived at Marcus's dorm room late one evening, his forearms carrying a complex device that flickered with unstable energy. "I need your perspective on something," Thex said. "This is a communication relay from an abandoned station. It contains data we need, but every time we try to access it, the system crashes. We have tried every standard recovery method." Marcus examined the device. He turned it over, listening to the sounds it made. Then he did something that made Thex's four eyes widen in alarm. He dropped it. Just let it fall from his hands onto the floor. The impact jarred something inside, and suddenly the device stopped flickering. It stabilized and began displaying data. "Sometimes things just need a good knock," Marcus explained. "Loose connections, stuck switches. You were being too careful." Word spread. The human had a gift for seeing problems from angles that others missed. Ricina brought him a puzzle involving telepathic encryption that her professors said was mathematically unbreakable. Marcus solved it by asking what would happen if you simply did not try to break the encryption, but instead convinced the system that you were authorized. He created a fake telepathic signature using recorded brainwave patterns. The system accepted it. Col 9 presented Marcus with a logic problem that had stumped lithoid mathematicians for generations. Marcus looked at it for 5 minutes and said, "The problem is unsolvable because it is based on a false assumption. The equation includes a variable that does not actually exist in the real world." He was right. The problem was a philosophical trap disguised as mathematics. But Marcus did not just solve problems for others. He learned from them too. Thex taught him the value of thorough preparation. Ricina helped him understand how telepathic species processed information through emotional connections. Col 9 showed him how perfect memory changed the way you approached pattern recognition. Marcus absorbed it all, adding new tools to his mental toolbox. Velthar watched this development with satisfaction. He had unofficially taken Marcus as a special project, meeting with him weekly to discuss his progress. "You are becoming a bridge," the instructor told Marcus one day, "between human thinking and galactic thinking. This is valuable." "I'm just helping my friends," Marcus said. "Yes, that is what makes it valuable." The change was not just in Marcus. The other students were learning too. They started questioning assumptions they had never examined before. They looked at physical objects instead of just data. They tried unconventional approaches when standard methods failed. The human's influence rippled outward like waves on a pond. Then came the message from the Galactic Council. It arrived as an official communication, delivered by a diplomatic courier who requested an immediate meeting with Academy leadership. Velthar was called into the meeting along with several senior board members. When he emerged 3 hours later, he went directly to find Marcus. "We need to talk," Velthar said. "Somewhere private." They went to Velthar's office. The instructor closed the door and activated a privacy field that would prevent anyone from listening in. "The council has a problem," he said without preamble. "A significant one. At the edge of known space, an exploration team discovered an ancient installation. We believe it was built by a species that existed before any of our current civilizations. The technology inside operates on principles we do not understand." "Okay," Marcus said. "What does that have to do with me? Every team we have sent to study the installation has failed. The technology does not respond to our methods. The structure itself seems to resist conventional analysis. After 3 months of attempting to understand it, the council has admitted they are stuck. They need someone who thinks differently." "They need you." Marcus felt his heart rate increase. "Me specifically? I'm a student. There must be experts who are better qualified." "There are thousands of experts trying to solve this problem," Velthar said. "None of them have succeeded. The council has reviewed your performance during the trial. They believe your approach to problems might be what they need. They are assembling a team. They want you to lead it." "Lead it? I don't know how to lead a team of galactic experts." "You will not be leading experts," Velthar said. "You will be leading a team of other unconventional thinkers. Students and researchers who have shown ability to solve problems through non-standard methods. The Council is calling it the Perspective Initiative. Your job will not be to command, but to coordinate different ways of thinking. Marcus stood up and walked to the window. Outside, students moved between buildings. Ships came and went from the Academy's docking facilities. Everything looked normal, peaceful. What happens if we fail? Then the installation remains a mystery. The technology inside could be revolutionary, or it could be dangerous. We need to know what we are dealing with. But there is risk. The installation is unstable. One team nearly died when they triggered something they did not understand. You need to know what you're agreeing to. Marcus thought about the past 3 months, about the students who had become friends, about the puzzles and challenges that had pushed him to grow, about his father's lessons on that colony world, teaching him to look at objects and see their stories. Who else is on the team? Velthar pulled up a holographic display. Thex has volunteered, so has Resina. Call 9 is interested but wants to know more details first. We are recruiting a few others from different species. Total team size will be about 12 individuals. My friends want to come. They trust your methods. They believe you can solve this. Marcus made his decision. Okay, I'll do it, but I have conditions. First, no one on the team is expendable. If I say we evacuate immediately. No debates, no second guessing. Second, I want complete authority over how we approach the problem. If I want to do something unconventional, I do it without having to justify it to a committee. Third, if any of my team members have a better idea than mine, I want the freedom to let them take the lead. The Council will agree to those terms, Velthar said. When do you want to leave? Give me 3 days to prepare and say goodbye. The news spread through the Academy within hours. Marcus Chen, the human who had solved the puzzle box in 30 seconds, was leading an expedition to study ancient alien technology. Reactions were mixed. Some students were excited, believing Marcus would succeed where others had failed. Others thought the Council was making a mistake, putting too much faith in someone who had only been at the Academy for 3 months. Marcus spent those 3 days carefully. He studied everything available about the installation. He talked to the teams who had already attempted to analyze it. He learned about their approaches and their failures, and he noticed something interesting. Every team had approached the installation as an archaeological site or a technological artifact. No one had approached it as a place where someone had once lived and worked. On the day of departure, Marcus stood in the docking bay with his team. Thex was there, his forearms loaded with equipment and supplies. Resina stood quietly, her telepathic presence calm and focused. Col 9 had agreed to join after all, his crystalline body reflecting the lights of the bay. 9 others completed the team, representing 7 different species. Some Marcus knew from classes. Others were researchers from different institutions, recruited specifically for their unconventional thinking. Velthar came to see them off. He pulled Marcus aside for a final conversation. I want you to have this, he said, holding out a familiar object. The puzzle box. The one Marcus had solved on his first day. I modified it. Inside is a message from me. You can open it when you need guidance or when you simply need to remember why you are suited for this task. Marcus took the box carefully. Thank you for everything, for believing I belonged here when others did not. You taught me something important, Velthar said. I had spent 200 cycles teaching students to think systematically, to follow established methods, to trust in proven approaches. You showed me that those things are valuable but incomplete. Sometimes the best solution is the one no one has tried yet. Sometimes you need to break the rules to see the truth. The ship departed on schedule. It was a standard Council research vessel, equipped for long-duration missions and capable of supporting a diverse crew. The journey to the installation would take 2 weeks through normal space, plus several days of careful approach through the unstable region where it had been discovered. During